There has long been a connection between sports performance and mental state. Put simply, if you feel good, you're more likely to ride further and faster, and even just believing that you're strong can be the difference between completing that century ride or not. In fact, having the right attitude is such an important component to success. Many professional cycling teams have a full-time sports psychologist to give their riders the mental edge needed to win. So with that said, I'll be the first to admit that I haven't had the correct attitude towards my own cycling for a couple of weeks now. I'm sure we've all been there at some point, but for me personally, I've been a bit busy, I've had other things to think about, and I've just generally lacked motivation. This time off the bike has shown me without doubt just how powerfully the mind can affect physical performance. One of the simplest and most powerful psychological techniques you can use is simply to believe that you can do something. Now, a few weeks ago, I went out cycling with a group of people, and there was a young woman riding a very expensive Pinarello Dogma. Now, when we got to the bottom of the various climbs, she would just automatically stop and get off and walk up because she didn't believe that she was able to get up there riding. Now, we had a bit of a tea stop, and during the tea and cake, we all had a bit of a chat with her and said, look, why don't you just try riding up the next climb? Unfortunately for her, the next climb was actually quite long and quite steep, but I'll give her her dues, and she managed to ride up it reasonably well. In fact, she was faster than me going up there. When she got to the top, she realised that she'd broken a very important psychological barrier for herself, and as far as I'm aware, she's riding up the climbs to this day. This young lady on the Pinarello Dogma kind of reminded me of a story that I heard about Sir Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile. Up until that point, many people were convinced that it was physically impossible for a human being to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Yet, within a year of Sir Roger Bannister actually breaking it, several other people had also run sub 4-minute miles, not because they were fitter or faster than him, but because they just believed and knew without doubt that it was in fact possible. We all give ourselves these self-limiting beliefs, things that we just take for granted that we cannot do, and very often we don't have any evidence to back that up. But the beauty of self-limiting belief is that once we do finally break them, they become incredibly empowering. I recently heard about something called the 60% rule, which suggests that when you're physically tired, you're only 60% done, and you have in fact got another 40% left in the tank. So what's happening here is that your body begins to suffer, and your mind tries to save it any further pain by saying, no, I can't go on. So it tries to shut everything down and stop you from doing any more exercise. Now, there is actually some evidence to support this. I personally remember watching a test where somebody had to move some heavy weights with their legs until they physically could not do any more. And once they'd reached that point, some electrodes were placed on their knees, and their muscles were moving purely by electrical stimulation and not the signals coming from their brain. Now, this showed that the muscle was able to carry on even though the mind had said no. Now, as far as I'm aware, Team Sky call this principle your inner chimp, because it's a very primitive self-preservation instinct. Now, if you can override this inner chimp, you will ride further and faster. Very often, simply being in a good or a bad mood can mean the difference between a fantastic day on the bike or an utterly crap day on the bike. Now, I'm sure we've all been at both ends of this spectrum, so I'm not sure how you can use it to your advantage or overcome it, but it's certainly food for thought. So there we go. I'm going to be working on my own attitude on the bike over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully I'll get my mojo back. So watch out for me on Strava. Thanks for watching.